You don't want somebody to be like, I think you've been robbed. There appears to have been a struggle in your house. I'm Ronnie, and you're listening to Clean With Me, the podcast where I walk you through cleaning your house step by step. When you clean along with this show, you'll get more done in less time, so you can spend the rest of your day doing what matters most to you. Thanks for joining me. In today's episode, I'm going to talk you through some everyday maintenance cleaning, and I'm also going to discuss the topic of preparing for a trip. You know, when you're going out of town for several days, there are certain things that you should do. Summer's coming. A lot of you are getting ready to travel, but even if you're not going to be traveling, I think you'll benefit from this episode because, of course, like always, we're going to be cleaning. Let's get right into it. It's time to gear up for your cleaning session. Maybe you need to freshen up, get presentable. Maybe you need to get your house smelling fresh, whether it's opening some windows and letting some air circulate through, weather permitting, of course, or starting a wax warmer or lighting a candle. A lot of people clean and then light a candle, but I like to get the house smelling good from the get-go. Or maybe you want to put some fresh wax in your wax warmer. Obviously, I can talk faster than you can do things. I promise I'm going to slow down during the actual cleaning sessions, but if you're new to the show, I give you a few ideas of what you can be doing during this introduction period, which is just like 4 minutes. Another thing you might want to do for the next couple minutes is start a load of laundry. And of course, if you have a forgotten load of laundry in your washing machine, you're going to want to rewash it with a little bit of laundry detergent and a little bit of white vinegar to get it smelling fresh again. But maybe you didn't wait too long and you just need to do a laundry switch. You need to switch those clothes from the washer into the dryer and maybe start a new load. The way I've been preventing forgotten laundry is I've gotten out of the habit of starting a load of laundry before bed and telling myself I'm going to switch it first thing in the morning, because mornings are busy and sometimes I forget to switch it. I'm better off doing laundry during my waking hours, especially when I set an alarm on my phone to switch the load. So if you're listening to this episode close to bedtime, maybe just do a laundry switch if you need to and don't start another load. Taking out the trash is another great way to kick off a cleaning session. I like to take out my kitchen trash and reline it, and then if it was full already, and then dump my bathroom waste baskets into that larger trash can. And by the way, that's one of the things you're going to be doing if you are preparing for a trip. Make sure you take your trash out. But during this episode, I'm going to talk about other ways to prevent your house from smelling while you're gone. And I'm also going to give you one of my best tips for preparing for your own return. And it has nothing to do with cleaning. Hopefully you're almost done with whatever you needed to do to gear up for your cleaning session, whether it was freshening up, getting dressed for the day, getting your house smelling fresh, switching your laundry, or maybe even taking care of some glaring problem in your front entrance. A lot of times I do a quick pickup of the immediate front entrance before I start a cleaning session, just so that I don't feel like the first impression area is out of control. And sometimes there can be a tendency to walk in and plop things down in the entryway, whether it's water bottles or maybe a large bag of pet food that you're tired of carrying. But you want to prioritize your front entrance, those first 10 feet around your front door. That's your first impression area. And often your first impression area extends further. It's everything you can see from the front door. But I like to start at the front door when I'm overwhelmed with the first impression area of my home. The next thing I want you to do is gather up any dirty dishes from around the house and get those to the sink. And of course, that is one of the things that I do without fail when we're leaving town is I wash the dishes. You don't want mold growing on your dishes. And my 18-year-old or 22-year-old, one of them normally stays behind when we're out of town just because they have other things going on. But I'm not expecting them to clean up the whole family's dirty dishes. And obviously, when a teenager is in charge, especially, they could wait till the day you're on your way home to clean. So I get caught up on the dishes even when I'm leaving someone in the house. I do recommend having someone stay and take care of your house, but obviously you're going to be doing that preliminary clean, whether someone's going to be there or your house is going to be left empty. Because we also have an alarm system and could leave with no one at home. But the preparation is virtually the same. Hopefully by now you've gathered dishes from around the house. It's time to get started on washing your dishes. Maybe you need to put away your clean dishes first. I find it so much easier to do dishes when I have an empty dishwasher. Well, obviously you have to have an empty dishwasher before you can reload it, but when I have an empty drying rack. So a lot of times my dishwashing sessions begin with emptying my drying rack and my dishwasher. And I did have a listener request for preparing for going out of town for a long time, so that's why I'm covering this topic. But I also want to talk about something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and it's another subject that a listener wrote in about. The tendency to skip cleaning an area if you feel like it's not that bad. Often we tell ourselves that our time could be better used on more pressing matters when we feel like the house looks okay. And that's true to an extent, but you really need to strike a balance, because when you wait until an area is messy, you could end up feeling overwhelmed and possibly procrastinate, and the mess could just get bigger and bigger. I've said this many times, but it's always easier to keep up than to catch up. Anytime I do a major cleaning session, like an overhaul, and I get my house looking really good, I try to maintain it for as often as possible. And it's normal that life happens and I end up going a couple days without doing much cleaning, and then it's back to the drawing board, right? We all go through busy seasons of life. In fact, I'm not even sure when I'm going to do the bonus episode, whether I'm going to do it today or Wednesday. And that's just because I have a lot going on right now. This is my kids' last week of school. My son is getting ready to graduate from both high school and junior college at the same time. We're getting the cat spayed. It's just a busy week for us. So usually at a time like that, our house kind of falls into disarray. But since we did a deep clean recently, and I say we, it's mainly my husband and me because the kids are so busy right now. But right now, I'm in the habit of cleaning before my house gets messy. And that's really the key. And by the way, preparing for a trip is easier when you've been keeping up on the day-to-day maintenance. For example, I walked into the kitchen yesterday. There were very few dishes in the sink. I just went ahead and washed them by hand. And I also quickly emptied the drying rack and dishwasher while I was waiting for water to boil. Sometimes it seems harder than it is to keep your house clean, and it's because you're so used to letting things pile up that, doing dishes becomes some monumental task. And no judgment here if you're facing a disaster right now. I'm just talking about going forward. And even when you get in the habit of cleaning as you go and washing 4 or 5 items instead of being blind to it and waiting for a pile up, you're still going to backslide, so to speak. You're going to have those busy weeks, and that's okay. But for me, it's easier to keep cleaning during the busy weeks than to just let it slide. At least that's my current mindset. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I'm in different states of mind. At different times, because sometimes I'm feeling overwhelmed. Sometimes I'm keeping up. But right now I've really got a handle on housework. even though I have quite the to-do list. I'm just in a really positive mindset about housework, and I'm hoping that I can encourage you to feel the same. But that really is the secret to keeping a clean house, and it's cleaning before it gets messy. A lot of it really is about mindset. By now you've put away your clean dishes. Hopefully you're already plugging away on washing dishes, but if not, it's time to quickly wash your dishes. Maybe you need to load the dishwasher and start it. Or maybe you have a dirty pot and pan from dinner that you need to rinse and get soaking before you wash the easy stuff. And then while you're washing the easy stuff, the soaking process does a lot of the work for you, and then it'll be easy to wash that pot and pan at the end of the session. Don't fall into the trap of telling yourself that things need to soak overnight. Sometimes they do, but that's a rare situation where you have burnt on food or something. But just dried on food because you weren't cleaning as you were cooking or you didn't clean right after dinner might just call for a 10-minute soak. For those of you who are ahead of the game, you either quickly did your dishes or you didn't have many dishes because you're like me, you're in a mode of just keeping up. If you are preparing for a trip, or even if you're not, you want to clean out your fridge. Now, cleaning out your fridge is different than cleaning your fridge. Let me explain. Cleaning the refrigerator involves taking everything out, of course, discarding anything that's no longer good, but wiping down the shelves and, rinsing out the drawers and things like that. Of course, wiping the exterior of the fridge. But what I mean by cleaning out the fridge is taking any old food out. I definitely do this before a trip, mainly because I don't want whoever is staying behind to eat some old leftovers. In fact, when I was on a recent mini vacation, I called my 22-year-old daughter and I was like, don't eat the such and such. I meant to throw that away, but that's like a week old. So if you're preparing for a trip, or even if you're not, quickly remove any old food from the refrigerator. Of course, you have to move things around to find what's lurking in the back. You might even need to pull out the milk and juice and those big items so that you can see what's in the back of that top rack, and discard any old food. And maybe you need to get a leftover container soaking after you've scraped the food into the trash. Or if you're like me, you use a lot of semi-disposable containers so that you can just toss them when you forget about them. For example, I like getting, and this is not sponsored, it's just something I do, I like getting the Hillshire Farms lunch meat. It has no added nitrates or nitrites or whatever it is, and it comes in the Gladware. Okay, so what I like to do is when I'm done with the ham or the turkey, and no, we don't eat a lot of processed meats, but we get it from time to time. When I'm done with the ham or turkey, I save that container. I wash it out, put it in the cupboard, and then use it for leftovers. Small portion leftovers, that is. So then if we eat the leftovers in a timely manner, we can wash that container and reuse it. If we don't, we can just toss the whole thing. But of course, this may necessitate taking your trash out again. You don't want to leave any food in the trash because you don't want to come home to a house that stinks. Of course, if you're not going anywhere, throwing your trash out once a day is fine. Taking your trash out once a day is fine. That said, sometimes if you have dogs, they will topple over your kitchen wastebasket if you're putting meat in it. So be mindful of that. If I'm dumping a bunch of old meat in the garbage, I take the trash out and reline it so that my dogs aren't tempted. Or sometimes if I'm leaving the dogs indoors, like while I go to church or something, I will put the kitchen wastebasket in the pantry and shut the door so that they don't try to get into it. They're more likely to do it when they're left alone for a long period of time. We have a fenced yard, so when the weather's nice, I put them outside. But sometimes if it's too cold or too hot and I gate them off in the kitchen, I will stick the wastebasket in the pantry. But that's a little off topic, just a tip for pet owners. Nobody wants to come home to garbage all over the floor. Hopefully you're still plugging away at those dishes. That's probably one of the most important things I do before leaving town, other than, of course, just locking doors. When I leave a teenager or young adult in charge, I lock my bedroom. It's something that my in-laws did when they had adults living at home. just because you never know who they might have over, and that way you can put anything valuable in the bedroom and lock the door. And no, my kids have never had somebody over that stole from us or anything, but it's still just a good idea. And it keeps me from having to clean my room before I go out of town if I don't have time, because obviously there's the packing and everything else to be done. But the reason I'm bringing that up is maybe you have someone else watching over your house, whether they are staying at the house or they're just stopping by to maybe water the plants and feed certain animals that can be left alone. You may want to consider locking your bedroom. One, it'll remove the urge to clean your room when you have more important things to do getting ready for your trip. And two, you won't have to worry about maybe a neighbor kid who's checking on your animals, going through your drawers or something, getting nosy. A lot of you are plugging away at dishes, but if you're preparing for a trip, another area you might want to check is your pantry. Sometimes potatoes can go bad in the pantry. There can be a terrible smell. It can attract pests. It could just be super nasty. So check those potatoes and onions in the pantry. By the way, you're not supposed to store your potatoes and onions together. They should not be touching in the pantry, okay? Put them in a different container. Hopefully you've washed the easier dishes like your silverware, glasses, bowls, and plates. Sometimes I'll find a glass with a kind of a ring of chocolate milk dried to the bottom, and I'll get that soaking along with a pot and pan that need to soak. But once you've washed all the easy stuff, then it's time to wash whatever's been soaking. And I realize some of you might not have a lot of dishes to do right now, and that's great. You can be cleaning the surfaces of your kitchen, picking up your living areas, and touching up a bathroom or making your bed. Okay? These are the everyday maintenance tasks. Making your bed, picking up your house, especially the main living areas, your bedroom floor, doing dishes, wiping down countertops, and checking your bathroom. If you have more than one bathroom, you probably have a tendency to use one of them. Like when you use the restroom or you take a shower or a bath, maybe you're always in the master bathroom. Make sure you go into that other bathroom, the kids' bathroom, so to speak. Like, I feel like my husband never goes into that other bathroom, so it definitely falls to me to check on it. He's not working right now, so he's doing a lot of the housework, but I know what he does and doesn't do, and I try to fill in the gaps. And even though we don't do every single thing in every episode, I teach a whole house approach, which means I want you to walk into every room of your house every single day. Even if it's a day where you're just cleaning the living room and picking up, the front entrance, you want to walk into the bathroom. You want to walk into your teenager's room. You want to check for any glaring problems. That way you don't have a dish somewhere growing mold. And obviously before a trip, you're going to do a whole house walkthrough. And I'm not saying that your house needs to be immaculate when you go out of town, but we typically wash all the dishes, give the countertops a swipe, sweep the kitchen floor, take out the trash, and at least just pick up and deal with any glaring problems. And of course, we do things like checking the window locks and feeding stay-at-home animals, leaving them extra water sources and extra food. For example, a guinea pig. Or for fish, I get those weekend feeder blocks and drop a couple of those in. For our chickens, we usually open up the door to the chicken coop, and then we provide additional water sources around the yard. That way, whoever's left in charge doesn't really have to worry about the chickens, because if they run out of food or water, they can graze around the yard and eat bugs and grass and drink out of the dog dishes we've left out. We usually take the dogs with us. But obviously you're going to do things like checking locks, checking windows, making arrangements for the stay-at-home pets, setting this thermostat to prevent your house from getting too cold or too hot, and then dealing with anything that could cause an odor. Trash, dishes, laundry. Obviously, don't put something in the washing machine right as you're leaving, unless you have a teenager staying behind and, you could call, hey, can you put that load into the dryer? I've definitely done that when my 22-year-old's home. But if nobody's going to be there, don't start any laundry, of course. And you don't want to leave damp towels in the hamper somewhere. And I'm probably not telling you anything new or groundbreaking, but something that I love to do when preparing for a trip, when I go to get groceries, because a lot of times I'll go and get some snacks for the road, some bottled waters, some coffees, maybe some chips, nuts, whatever, right, to eat in the car so that we don't spend as much at gas stations. We usually, do road trips. Obviously, if you're flying, you're not going to be doing all that. But my special tip for you today is to get something that goes straight from the freezer to the oven. This could be frozen corn dogs. It could be taquitos. It could be frozen pizzas. Whatever your go-to frozen food is, because when you get back from a long drive, you're going to be tired. Even though you've just been sitting in the car not doing anything, you will be exhausted. And same goes for flying. You'll have jet lag or whatever. When you get home, you're not going to feel like cooking. So it's so convenient to have something that you could just plop onto a pizza pan or cookie sheet, pop it in the oven, and eat it, especially for those of us with kids. It could even be chicken nuggets and tater tots. But I make sure that I have some convenient frozen foods that we can just pop into the oven when we get back from the trip. Pop that in the oven and then immediately empty your suitcase, your kid's suitcase, your spouse's suitcase, whatever, and start a load of laundry. Start washing that trip laundry immediately instead of having your suitcase sitting out for weeks. And then I wonder where my favorite sweater is, and then come to find out it's still in the suitcase with some dirty laundry. I know you're going to be tired when you return from the trip, but it really doesn't take that long to start a load and maybe set a timer on your phone to switch that load, especially when you don't have to come home and cook, because you're just popping something into the oven because you shopped for future you who wasn't going to feel like cooking first thing. By now your dishes are done. I want you to quickly spray and wipe down the surfaces of your kitchen. Lately, I've been using a multi-surface cleaner that works on glass, stainless steel, my countertops, the whole thing. So once I clear and put away any items that, the seasonings that were left out, the cereal boxes, whatever else, I just go spray happy, spray everything and wipe it all down in one fell swoop. And sometimes the stovetop needs more scrubbing. Like a lot of times I'll spray everything, or at least spray a section. I kind of do it by sections, okay? Rather than spraying the entire kitchen, because obviously it would dry. So I will spray, one side of the kitchen, and it will include the stovetop, and then I'll grab an abrasive sponge and start scrubbing the stovetop, okay? Then I'll go back over everything, with a damp rag after I've loosened whatever's on the stovetop, okay? But I want you to clean all of those key surfaces in your kitchen. And don't forget to at least wipe down the parts of the cabinets that you touch frequently. I mean, that's going to be all of your lower cabinets, all of your drawers, and then at least the part of the upper cabinets that you can reach when you go to open the cabinet. You'd be surprised how much better your kitchen will look when you wipe down your cabinets. So take a minute to do that when you're done with the other surfaces. And of course, you don't want to leave crumbs all over your kitchen floor at any time, but especially not when you're going out of town. So once you've cleared and wiped down your kitchen surfaces, you're going to want to sweep your kitchen floor. And no, your house does not need to be immaculate when you go out of town. I mainly like to come home to a made bed because that's nice and cozy to crawl into. Of course, after I've started the trip laundry and switched that first load to the dryer, don't go to bed with clothes in the washer. I like to crawl into a nice comfy bed. So make sure that after you've wiped your kitchen surfaces, well, we'll get to that, but just to let you know what's ahead, we're going to make the bed and we're going to pick up the entire house, even if we don't have time to vacuum, because it's not that embarrassing to have an unvacuumed house, and it's not that overwhelming to have an unvacuumed house, but to have clutter everywhere. I mean, you don't want somebody to be like, I think you've been robbed. There appears to have been a struggle in your house. If it's picked up, you don't have to worry about that when somebody goes to check on your house. Okay, hopefully by now you've wiped the surfaces of your kitchen. At this point, you're either sweeping or vacuuming your kitchen floor. But when you're done with that, I do want you to make your bed and then just do a whole house walkthrough and pick up. While you're working on those things, I'll give you my other tip for traveling. In the Notepad app of my phone, I have a note that is called a pack list. And I also include things to do before we leave, like take care of, the guinea pig or whatever. And a lot of the things I do before a trip are kind of obvious, but the checklist gives me so much peace of mind because when my husband is like, okay, we're ready, let's go, I like to check that list first. And I like it because if I discover something on the trip that I wish I would have brought, I add it to the pack list. It's a pack list and a to-do list in one that I kind of go over. Did I pack all these items? Basically, when I have regrets about not bringing something, I add it to my pack list for next time. And not everything on the pack list is going to be relevant. You might go over it and be like, oh, well, I don't need a swimsuit on this trip or whatever, like I did on the last trip. But it can give you so much peace of mind going over that list before walking out of the house. Because I don't know about you, but it gives me a little bit of anxiety when I'm leaving for a trip. I hope I didn't forget to do anything to the house or pack anything that I was going to need. And if you haven't noticed already, everyday maintenance chores are a lot of the same things that you do when preparing for a trip. I mean, ideally, you're taking out your trash daily. You're getting down to dish zero daily. You're making the bed at some point so that you and your spouse will have a cozy bed to crawl into at the end of the day. You're walking into every room of the house and just doing a pickup and taking care of any glaring problems. But if this is a deeper clean for you, maybe the person who's watching over your house while you're gone is super judgmental, so you want to do all the vacuuming and all the mopping and clean baseboards and whatnot. You might want to consider subscribing to bonus episodes. You'll get a lot more done in those longer episodes. By the way, special thanks to my financial supporters who support the show either on Patreon, Apple Podcasts, or through the Spreaker Supporters Club, or those of you who generously send money on Cash App or Venmo. This allows me to justify the time spent on this labor of love. But even just listening to the show helps me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Have a safe trip if you're going somewhere. Remember to create a pack list for future you that includes a few things to do to your house, like taking out the trash and running the garbage disposal, things like that. And there may be unique things that you do that maybe I don't do when preparing for a trip. Add them to the list. And of course, I'll put a link in the episode notes to my website, cleanwithmepodcast.com, where you can learn more about the different options for supporting the show and gaining access to additional episodes. Again, this is a busy week for me, so there might be a delay in the bonus episode getting out, but we have an extensive library of regular episodes and bonus episodes, and most of these episodes are evergreen, meaning you don't have to listen to them in any particular order at any particular time of year. Happy cleaning, thanks for listening, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.